Basically, it goes from the time that my older sister, her name was actually Bushra. She came one day home, and she had an invitation to a birthday party, and she said, "Oh, me, can I go? There's going to be games and toys, cake and ice cream." And as soon as I heard that, I started screaming. I was only 3. I started screaming, "I want to go too! I want to go too!" And my sister said, "I can't take her. She's not invited." And my mom said, "What's a birthday party?" Because we never did that in Pakistan. And my sister said, "Oh, it's when they celebrate the day they were born." And my mom said, "Why do they do that?" "They just do." "Can I go?" And I heard that again, and I said, "I want to go too. I want to go too." And my sister said, "I can't take her. She's not invited." My mom said, "Why not?" Because in Pakistan, if you invite one kid, you invite the whole family. And my sister said, "No, but they don't do that here. Here only the kid is supposed to go." And my mom said, "Well, that's not fair. You call up your friend." So she had to call up her friend and ask if I could come too. And her friend said, "Well, yeah, okay." But it was weird. Like, it was really weird for me to go. Now, when we came back, we had loop eggs. And in the loop egg, there was a Big Red Lollipop. And I ate mine on the way home. And my sister saved hers for later. And by the time we went to bed that night, all my chocolates, candies, everything was gone. My ruby was in the ring. My ring was missing, and my whistle was broken. And I had nothing left. But my sister still had her Big Red Lollipop. She stuck it in a paper plate, and she put it on the top shelf of the fridge to have in the morning. Now, the next morning was Saturday, and I got up first. And then the first thing I did was I went and turned on the TV to watch some cartoons. And this whole part is not in the story, not in the book, because this is my version of the story. For 10 years, I was telling this version. So I went to go and watch cartoons. And then I went to see what was there to eat in the fridge. And I saw the Big Red Lollipop, and I thought, "Oh, I shouldn't. I mustn't. It's not mine." I grabbed an apple. At least it was red too, and I went and sat down. I ate my apple. But that's not what I really wanted. I thought, let me just go back and look at it. So I looked at it, and I thought, "Oh, no, I shouldn't." And then I went back and sat down again to watch cartoons. And this time, Bugs Bunny started looking like a Big Red Lollipop. I remember this. And Porky Pig, and I couldn't stop thinking of it. And I thought, let me just go back and look at it again. And when I went back to look at it again, I saw a little bump on the side. And I thought, "Oh, it's defective. I should fix it." So I grabbed hold of the bump. I thought, "I'll just take the bump off. I won't eat anymore. I'll just eat the bump. It doesn't belong there anyway." So I grabbed hold of the bump, and it wouldn't budge. They're very hard. So I had to grab a little bit more. And I squeezed, and finally it broke off, but the whole thing shattered, and all that was left was a triangle. Well, little by little, I ate most of the lollipop, and there was only 6 pieces left in the plate. And then I remembered my mom had always told me, you should, if you see a mess, you should clean it up, like a little piece of like stuff on the floor. And I thought, hey, they look kind of messy. It looks, So I ate those 6 pieces too. Now, all that was left was the triangle. And nobody ever realizes what a sacrifice it was for me to leave the triangle. They don't realize it. It was a sacrifice. I left the triangle. I thought, okay, no, that's for you. That's for her. And I went and I sat down to watch cartoons. And no matter how much I wanted it to, because I wanted it to, I thought, no, that's hers. She woke up. I went to hide, but I was only 3 years old. And really, I always hid in the front door closet. When we played hide and go seek, I always hid there because you could hide behind the coats and boots. It looks like you're not even there. She came out. First thing she does is she looks in the fridge, and all she sees is a triangle stuck to the stick. And she comes after me. Oh, my goodness. Through the living room, dining room, kitchen, round and around. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, "Yummy, help, help." And my mom comes out. And I run behind her. And she says, "What's going on here?" And I said, "Rabina, my sister, she's trying to hit me." And my sister had to stop in front of my mom. And my mom said to her, she said, "Are you trying to hit your little sister again?" And my sister said, "She ate my lollipop, the greedy thing. She ate it. And I thought, oh, I hope I don't get into trouble. But my mom just looked at her and she said, "For shame. It's just a lollipop. Can't you share with your little sister?" And I thought, yeah, I'm not going to get in trouble. But my poor sister, she looked so sad. So I felt sorry for her. So I ran to the fridge. I brought her the triangle. I said, "Look, see, I didn't eat all of it. I left the triangle for you." And my mom said, "See, Roxana didn't eat all of it. She's sharing with you. Go ahead, take the triangle." So my sister had to take the triangle. And my mom said, "Go ahead, eat the triangle." And she got so mad. She threw it across the room and it skidded under the sofa. And I thought, Okay. She doesn't want that either. So I went into the sofa, I washed it up, and I ate that too. Now I stopped the story right there. Everybody was laughing. It was so funny. And I thought, oh, I should really make this into a story. That's funny. That is funny. And then I thought, well, but okay, what's the problem? And I thought, the problem is I'm a brat. And I thought, but I'm not a brat anymore. How did I get out of it? And then I remembered what had happened. I remembered that years later, I had come home, like, because for years my sister wasn't invited to any more birthday parties because they knew she would bring me. And so years later I came home, and my baby sister was a brat. I came home waving a piece of paper, an invitation, and my older sister, she had actually stepped in. And then my baby sister, she wanted to go. And my mom was going to make me take her. She said, oh, it's only fair. You went with your sister. Well, her name was actually Busher, but in the story, her name is Rabina. She said, now Mariam is going to go with you. And I said, no, 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 they're going to laugh at me. They're never going to invite me to another party again. And I was begging and pleading, and my mom wouldn't listen. She thought it was only fair, and it was. But my sister, Bushra, she actually stepped in and she tapped my mom on the shoulder. And she said, Ami, don't let Rukhana take baby Mariam to that birthday party. And my mom said, no. She goes, no, don't let her. And so I didn't have to take baby Mariam. I got to go to the party all by myself. And so I thought, oh, wow, that was really nice of her. So I thought, I'll put that into the story. And then I thought, how would I end it? I thought that when I was going home, I got a loot bag, and I looked inside. I was really hoping there would be a big red lollipop, but there was no big red lollipop. But there was a big green lollipop. And I thought, I'll take it home. Before I could change my mind, I marched right up to Rabina's room, and I knocked on the door. And Rabina opened the door and said, what do you want? And I said, here, this is for you. But the fact is, I actually ate the green one too. And in fact, one time I told that story. Well, I turned that into a story, and it's hilarious. It's a really nice story. And like it's got the moral. I love stories with a moral. And it's not a heavy-handed moral. It's a very light moral that arises naturally from the circumstances of the story and the characters. But the thing is, one time I told that story in front of my sister. This was before she passed away. She passed of breast cancer 11 years ago. And I told the Big Red Lollipop story. She was in the audience. It was in a bookstore. And she was laughing louder than everybody else. And right at the end, she knew exactly what I had changed in the story. And she came up to me and she said, wait a minute, you never gave me that big green lollipop. I said, yeah, I know, but I should have. So I wanted her to see that story, because she's the hero in the story and I'm the villain. And the thing is, when I wrote the story, for the longest while, I wrote it from my perspective. I'm the villain. And it was my editor at Viking. She's the one who said, Rukhana, and I'd been trying to get the story published. Nobody wanted it. I mean, it was getting rejected. And it's such a good story, but it was getting rejected. And then my editor said, why don't you let Rabina tell the story? She's a more sympathetic character. So in 15 minutes, I rewrote the story, and I sent it out back to them. And I didn't even think about it again, and it became Big Red Lollipop. It was chosen by the New York Times as one of the 10 best picture books. And then the New York Public Library made a list of the 100 greatest children's books in the last 100 years, and Big Red Lollipop is on it. And the thing is, when that happened, I felt like, wow, I'm in the company of Curious George, Where the Wild Things Are, Harry Potter, The Hobbit. I'm in the company of Cat in the Hat, Green Eggs and Ham. These are the stories I loved when I was growing up, and I'm in that company. That's what it feels like. It's like, whoa, I've come home. It's really, really amazing.